Hey there, health and wellness fans. Welcome to episode 10 of the YCast. That's right. I said episode 10,
Wow,
Keith.
it's crazy, huh?
Crazy. This podcast is reinventing how men think about their health and wellness and their life. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea. It makes me reevaluate things, that's for sure.
Right? We got to keep reminding people, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's all about education.
That's right. And knowing that you're not alone in this health and wellness journey, as we say.
That's true. That's a good point.
I'm Tony. Due to unexpected last minute commitment, Rob will not be on the show tonight, but you know who's there. Our producer, the one and only Keith.
I'm here. I'm filling in. He's better looking than I am, but hey.
You know, you'd have to ask some people.
Yeah, that's true. It's all a matter of opinion, right?
Yeah. Well, before we get going, I want to make a couple of announcements. We got, I know we've been talking about this for a long time about the launching of our products. Well, we got two ready to go. We have our hydration age defying moisturizing cream. Guys, check this out. It's beautiful. It's
awesome.
1.5, 50 milliliters of luxury. and then we have our eye serum, our tightening eye serum. It's really good for right here, this area, which we all need as men, right?
Absolutely.
So we're giving these away right now. And all you have to do is go to YouTube, hit subscribe, take a screenshot, send it to us at our email. You can email me at tony@projectwhynow.com or send it as an attachment on LinkedIn. You guys have all our socials. So we'll go through them at the end and you'll get a free product.
Can't beat that.
No, you can't beat that. But anyway, they're good stuff. You guys know we make this stuff here at our facility. So, we're only using the best ingredients and, a lot of research and a lot of our technology has gone into these products. So, we're expecting some good feedback. Mm-hmm. So that's important if you guys feedback too. Tonight is all about gymtimidation. I love that word.
I know. It's great.
It's actually the first time I heard it the other day.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, we all, I think, to a point, go through this in our lives and our fitness journey. I mean, this is more specific to if you're integrating gym into your routine.
Right.
Obviously, there are people out there who, exercise outside, they hike, they do yoga, and they're maybe not in the gym. So at the end of the day, I think collectively this podcast is going to be about people who are looking to get into the gym and start their fitness journey that way. So this will be kind of like a step-by-step guide to beginning your fitness journey.
Yeah, and I think it's important too, because you kind of said it earlier, right? You're not alone in this. And I think anybody who's ever stepped foot in the gym, myself included, at some point you did feel a certain aspect of intimidation when you walk into a gym, whether it's an LA Fitness or a Planet Fitness, you walk in, you see 300 machines. It's like, holy crap, what do I do? Right.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing.
It's foreign. And then, you're dealing with, the conversation and, what people are talking about, people, walking around, throwing weights around. It's pretty intimidating. So this will give us a little idea tonight of, just how to go about that little instruction guide, how to go about taking that first step, getting into a fitness center, talking to, a representative there and, getting started. So let's talk about some of those hurdles that we're dealing with. It's like you said, it's overwhelming when you walk in, lots of equipment.
Right.
People lifting heavy weights. It's really easy to get lost if you're not familiar with the territory.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think that's a good place to start. On Keith, you want to throw up the Oh, you got it up there already.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important, and this is great information here too, get familiar with the facility. That's the biggest thing is when you walk in is, you know, um, most of the gyms, I don't know, in your experience, I don't know about in California there, but most of the gyms, if you walk in and sign up for a membership and want to sign up for a membership, they'll give you an orientation, they'll give you a tour of the facility, right? They'll tell
Yeah.
you what the different sections of the gym are, what the machines do, what you can focus on. I think that's a first step for
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah. And I think, when you walk in, I think you got the wrong slide up, Keith.
That's the first slide.
That's the first slide. I think we're going backwards. It should be working out in the gym for beginners is the first slide.
Let's see.
There you go. The next one.
There we go.
All right. That looks like me in the gym.
I love it. How much you pay him to wear the Project Y shirt? That's pretty cool.
I didn't pay him anything. I photoshopped it.
I love it. I love
it. So yeah, I think, there's plenty of people in the gym today that are more than willing to help you out, coach you through it. There are some waivers you have to sign, things like that. So right away, it does seem a little intimidating. Like, you're kind of signing a mortgage. But at the end of the day, everyone has, your best interest at the forefront. It's a good environment to, just change your habits across the board. So I would say, getting started, what do I do? Like, how much do I lift? What are all these things about sets and reps and, a lot of these machines now, they have, technology added to them. So we'll talk about all that, but let's start with, how much do I lift? Before you even touch the weights, you want to get comfortable with, the fundamentals of, specific movements. So I would say, and I think I've talked to enough trainers and people in the gym who have a lot of experience. I think first thing you want to do is you want to just like really focus on your own body weight first.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And that means, just because there's a bunch of equipment there, you could still do push-ups.
Right. Yep.
And
I think, can I go back real quick?
Yeah.
I think before that, and this is coming from my experience as a personal trainer, I think for people who are brand new to a gym environment, I think it's important to maybe meet with a trainer a couple of times, right? Because there's things they can do. They do initial assessments. So they'll evaluate you on a fitness level to identify maybe any imbalances you may have going in. Mm-hmm. That way you're just not jumping into exercises and, exacerbating those imbalances, right? So you identify those imbalances right up front, and then they can help you design a program that will not only correct those imbalances, but set you on the right path to whatever your goals, whatever you're looking to achieve in the gym. So I think that's kind of important, because to just jump on a machine without knowing your fitness level, to your point, could be, could be dangerous, because you could hurt yourself. So I think body weight exercises are a great way to start. And
it's good. It's going to be good to get some type of assessment of where you're at. And I think, there's so much technology on apps, and there's so many programs now that I think, most of the trainers out there, have a good understanding of how to assess new people that come in the gym and where they're at, with their fitness levels, which is important. But yeah, I would say, push-ups, pull-ups, even stretching is something, you should get used to, because it's good, for your joints, and, give you the flexibility you need to start, really intensifying your workouts as you go, and increasing those levels and milestones. You can squat with no weight. Mm-hmm. Lunges. I love doing lunges. I do lunges all the time with no weight. I just love the feeling of the stretch, and, my knees aren't the best anyway. So it's good for that. You can plank. And there's a ton of other, techniques you guys can.
And planks are huge for core. I mean, core's it. That's your stabilization of your body, right? So it's important to get those core workouts. People think planks are boring, but it's crucial, I think. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, it all starts there. I think, it's, I'm not going to say it's new, but, core's been around for a long time. But I think, you and I growing up, there wasn't like this focus of work your core, work your core,
Oh, there wasn't.
right? So I think now it's something that stabilizes the rest of your body.
Yeah.
Um, and they're not easy. I've done planks before, and I'm telling you, like, if you do them right and you're consistent, they're pretty substantial as far as throw them in your workout routine.
Well, and when you get to the point where you can do a plank, right, and it becomes second nature to you, then you accelerate that, right? There's modifications you could do on the plank. You can do single leg with your arm out, where it
Mhm.
increases your stability. So
Right.
there's different modifications you could do on that basic exercise that'll make it more difficult and help strengthen your core even further, honestly.
Right. And so that's the other thing too is embracing the technology in the gym or in your hand on your phone because to what you're saying is there's plenty of apps out there that will give you all these different types or extensions of an exercise that you're doing
Yeah.
to hit different heads of your muscle that you wouldn't normally hit. And you feel when you first first time of the summer when you go into the pool the first time and you swim the next day you're sore
Yeah. I know that. Yep.
and you're just not using those muscles. So we have a big advantage today with our cell phones, and some of these apps are really good. I'd be careful because there's a lot of garbage out there as far as people trying to sell you stuff, but you could look and get some good reviews and download a good. They even have free ones now. You could see just different exercise and try different things. And that brings me to as far as like the machines at the gym now have technology. They'll have like
QR code.
counters, right?
Yep.
QR code. You said,
Yeah, they have QR codes to actually pull up on your phone how to use the equipment too if you're not familiar with it. I
yeah,
mean, it's great. It's awesome.
yeah. That's a good thing too. Um, but you'll have counters, and then I think even some equipment. I know even the ellipticals and some of the treadmills, you can even link your Fitbit or Apple Watch or
Yep.
Garmin, whatever you have, and just check your activity levels. It'd be good to check your heart rate, which is another good thing to understand. When you're first getting started, because that's something once you know how to do it, it becomes pretty easy to do, and you
Second
know
nature.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I guess the next thing is, try to get an understanding for the flow of the gym and the trends and, classes, because there's a ton of classes out there now and a ton of different offerings that these gyms have. And usually the gyms will include it in your membership. Some gyms, they're upgrades, things like that.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I know for like an LA Fitness, it's pretty inclusive.
Yeah.
But I know like HIT is pretty popular right now. The
I,
HIIT,
yeah. I haven't
I
done that.
think it is. Yeah, there's a lot of people in it. Um, Pilates is always busy. Um, so any of these functional fitness groups and things you can do, and then um, some gyms have. Well, a lot of the gyms today have like resistance bands, medicine balls,
Oh yeah.
um, things like that, and
TRX straps, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and it's good to kind of reiterate the the fundamental movements that you will end up, just doing by by nature. You'll be doing, these movements that didn't think you'd be able to do when you first started.
Right.
Um, because that's another thing we'll talk about as we go. But technique is really superior in this topic because once you have the technique down, I mean, you train. By the way, you have a certification,
I
Keith.
do. Yep. I am a CPT. Yep. Yep.
So just so everyone out there listening, Keith knows his stuff here.
Yeah. And always remember it's quality over quantity. Always.
Yeah.
right? It's important to get the techniques down, like Tony said, for sure.
Yeah, it's like I would attribute it to like golf, right? I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's
Yep.
not how strong you are or, how far you can hit a baseball. It's all about, just learning the technique. And, you see like small dudes like hitting balls, they're just hitting bombs. So I think like that's the first thing. And I've trained and you've trained people who come in and get on the bench and can barely like bench the bar, right?
It's
And
okay.
it's kind of all over the place. And then, like 4 weeks later, even sooner, they've got weight on the bar. And it's not because they all of a sudden got like massively stronger.
They build.
It's more about them understanding the technique and learning about your body, which is another thing we're going to go over too is like listening to your body. I think, most of us know, when we're sick and when something's coming on, because we're identifying things that we've been identifying for our whole lives. So kind of the same thing, the more you do it, the more acclimated you get, the easier or the lighter it feels, I guess you could say, right?
Well, and it goes back to that intimidation factor too, right? That's kind of what the show's about. And when guys walk into the gym, they sit down the bench. In their mind, they're probably thinking I should be benching 200 pounds, right?
Right.
But it doesn't work that way. I mean, if you're benching, like you said, even just a bar or 40 pounds or 50 pounds, you'll work up to that. And I've seen a lot of people struggle with that. They get embarrassed because they can't lift a lot of weight. Don't worry about that, because like we said, it's quality over quantity. So
Yeah. And everybody has, the strength they have in different areas of the body are just different from other people. Everybody's physiology is different. I know, like I can push a lot of weight with my triceps, but I'm not this. It's not comparable. When I'm doing biceps.
right.
So I think people you'll get a hang of that too. You'll find out what your strong points are, what your weak points are, and be able to accommodate both of them. So you know how to grow that muscle.
And it's also going to depend on the equipment you're using, right? Because free weights are going to have a different reaction on your body than what a cable machine will, right? You're going to do different weights on
Exactly.
those. So
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of research now about full extension of a lot of your muscles and being able to get the full extension of the movement.
yep.
And they're finding that the muscle grows at a higher rate when you're able to get the full extension rather than when you're doing these short choppy kind of pushes and pulls and things like that. Not saying they don't work, but I think a lot of these studies are based on what that maximum potential is, because we all know that pushing yourself, no pain no gain kind of thing.
Yep.
And, getting to that exhausting rep is really where that muscle is going to build at its peak. And speaking of that, Keith, I think we can go on to the next slide.
We can do that.
We can talk about like some exercises.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which exercises should you choose? So I know this is, again, going back to the opening segment here. We were focused on how overwhelming it was with all the equipment and what to do, and everybody's telling you to do this and doing that, and so everyone doesn't have the luxury of walking in and being going on a tour.
Right.
A lot of the smaller gyms, they just don't care. I've signed up for smaller gyms. You just sign the contract and like, okay, see you. You know.
Yep.
So it's good to inform yourself. And look, guys, a lot of this information is just readily available. I mean, a lot of it's on Google. You can find, what I would do is like do an average of searches. If you're searching compound exercises, the best compound exercise to do, and you only want to do 3, and you look on 3 different sites, you pretty much will come up with, what's good and what's not as good.
Right. Right.
So you guys can find this stuff, but I would say So compound exercises, to define it, are multi-joint movements
Yep.
that work multiple muscle groups at the same time. So you'll recognize these as, like, part of the standard movements that people are doing to build strength: squats, deadlifts, bench press, overhead press, rows. So squats, we all know, work the legs and glutes,
Yep.
and I think that's probably the I would say that it's probably up there, the number one movement when you walk into a gym, because everybody's doing squats,
Everybody's doing squats, right? Right.
improving strength, um, and it really makes your butt look good, which you would know, Keith, because
I don't know about that, but
you've been doing squats. I know it.
I do. And what's funny is I don't do squats with weights. I do just body weight
Yeah,
squats.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, occasionally I'll do like a, a medicine ball or something. I'll hold a medicine ball out and I'll do it that way. But yeah, don't do the bars and squats. I really don't. But
yeah,
now that I have a tonal, it's crazy what that machine does. So
yeah, yeah. And that's what I would say too. Is like, along with what we're talking about tonight, you also have to assess your injury tolerance.
yep. Yeah.
Your age is affected. Your age is affected by it. Um, how much fitness you've had in your life is affected.
Yep.
My knees are bad. I played catcher for a very long time, and I was one of those guys who was diving everywhere and just sacrificing my body. So it's hitting me now. So I don't squat. I do the same thing you do. I'll do my body weight, or I'll just do the bar. Or sometimes if I'm feeling brave, I'll use one of the machines, like a hack squat or something
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so you got to be careful. Especially squats and deadlifts. You definitely want to be careful with these, because a lot of the times, you're using heavy free weight, and you're not on a machine that can catch the weight or support you in any way. So also safety is a big thing when we're talking
Huge.
about especially these compound exercises. But deadlifts are great, very effective. I would say pretty much works all of your major muscle groups, when you think about it.
Yeah, but
And
form is super important on a deadlift. Super important.
yeah, super important. Squats as well.
Yep. Yep.
Bench press, or dumbbell press. This is funny, because I think, like, you grew up the same way I did, Keith, and it's always like, how much you bench,
Right. Oh, yeah. That's what.
right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Um, but I think overall, I don't know that you technically need to do a flat bench press with a barbell, because there's so many other options now. But I'll tell you, I still do it. I don't do as much weight anymore because of my shoulder, my elbow, and all these other things I've got going on.
Yeah.
But I do believe it's an important exercise and movement, overall, because again, it works your chest, it works your shoulders, it works your triceps, and it gives you that power. And if anyone out there that lifts understands that, you know what I'm talking about. But it gives you that stability and that power, where you feel like, you just feel like, when you do your legs for
Yeah.
for a long time, and you're doing your quads, and you're like walking around, you could just feel it every day.
Yep. Yep.
You
Yep.
feel that pump. And so I think for bench press, for me, that's kind of the way I feel. That's why I don't give it up, and I try to, I've definitely used less weight, and I try to, my movements a little different. I don't necessarily go all the way down anymore. I try to preserve my elbow. I got like constant tennis elbow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and
That's why.
then
That's why I like the cable chest press. I
yeah,
think that's,
yeah,
especially if you have bad elbows. I think that's a little bit, less impact on the elbows when you're doing that.
yeah,
And I like the dumbbell press because For me, a barbell without a spotter, if you're doing too much weight, you can get into trouble that way. At least with the dumbbells, you can kind of dump them, and it's
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
situation. So
Yeah. And I think your muscles are forced to kind of, stay balanced and rather than when you're using a barbell, you can kind of cheat a little bit. You can use your back. Um, you can use your legs.
mhm,
Um, so, and then overhead press or dumbbell press, I guess is kind of the same
same, yeah,
same kind of premise. I think. Obviously you're working your shoulders, you're still working your triceps, and this is another exercise that you have to be careful with because I know a ton of people that just can't do overhead presses anymore because of a bad shoulder or an injury they've had from sports or just in life in general from work or whatever. So it's another these compound exercises are no joke. So be careful, get good instruction. Like I said, there's plenty of information online, and if you're in the gym and you're talking to trainers, and by the way, there's a lot of people in the gym who like to help other people. So I would say, also don't be afraid to ask someone for help
absolutely,
because they're out there.
yeah.
The uh the last one we have on our list here is rows.
I love
So
rows.
yeah. So you can do barbell or dumbbell.
Mhm.
I've been so focused on barbell lately. I don't know why. I hate doing dumbbell rows. It just irritates me for some reason. But I've been doing the barbell a lot. I like the positioning. I like how it feels
Right.
when I'm pulling, and that obviously works your back and it does work your biceps. So remember what we said in the beginning. These are multi joint movements, and they work several muscle groups
Right.
simultaneously. So that's why for those of you who have had some experience in the gym or you've listened to other people talk when they're saying like you do chest and buys and arms and or I'm sorry, tries and back and things. You mix things up because like if you're doing chest, you're working your tries, you're working your shoulders. So that's why I would say most people, kind of separate and do a split throughout the week
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
different movements. I don't know. That's kind of what I did.
Well, we talked about rest too, right? Muscle rest. That's
Yeah.
important too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We're going to definitely get into that too, because that's really the secret sauce to all of this is
it is.
getting the rest. And obviously, the other thing we're not going to really talk about tonight at all is supplements because we've done the show. We will be doing more shows on supplements, what to take, what's trending, things like that. We want to stay on top of it. But God, the creatine show was
That was
so
awesome.
good.
That was awesome.
Yeah, we got some good feedback on that. Rick's always good, man. He just comes in with this energy, and him and Rob together, like it's just it's like a tennis match,
We
getting
put
those.
that knowledge together between the two of them, man, and it's like, yeah, it's crazy. Very cool though.
Well, it's good because that's what people were saying. Like even some of the guys I work with, they're just like, oh man, I didn't know creatine did this,
Yeah.
and these are all. I would say there some of the studies were have been done, a decade ago, but all this stuff is starting to come to the forefront now. So it's good to understand why you're taking these things now. But and dive into that. But we're going to do that more on future shows. We'll pick a supplement and discuss it like we do with creatine because it's definitely helpful.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Because people have questions, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
had questions up until we did the creatine show, and I started taking it and I'm taking it now. So yeah. And I've seen a difference already.
yeah, yeah. I increased mine. I think I was saying it on the show too. I'm doing 15 grams now a day, and definitely noticing the difference.
Yeah.
Especially my workouts, like just the strength. I feel like that last minute, exertion. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm in that, which I wasn't before. So, but anyway, let's stay on track, Keith.
Sorry.
Yeah. There's so much good information. Machine alternatives, which
We kind of
look,
thought,
yeah, I mean, look, I do a lot of machines nowadays. I try to integrate it into my workout. I would say maybe, 50-50 right now.
okay,
Um, there's some good machines out there. Those, I want to say they're called rockets, not rocket like rocket to the moon. But it's like ROCK hyphen IT, and they kind of they move your body with the movement. So if you're doing chest, like your whole your whole body goes back and forth
okay, yeah,
rather than just pressing from here.
right.
So I'm on video, so I could do that.
You can do that. I
Um,
haven't seen those. I haven't run across those machines.
yeah, they're in LA Fitness, and they're good because I don't know. I don't know technically if this is true or not, but I feel like they put less stress on your joints.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, especially like for shoulders. I love doing it for my shoulder.
Yeah,
Um, but there's, to continue on the machines, there's all types of machines out there. So when you walk in a gym and you see these things, and they're going to have multiple machines that work the same body parts,
yep,
but leg presses, chest press, lat pull downs, rows, all these terms that you'll eventually learn. But you could do a full body workout, and the cool thing is, you'll be able to switch it up, because I think that's another thing that is very important when you start, get when you start working out and get into your fitness journey, is to be able to switch
of
and,
course. Yeah.
you know try a different machine or something. Because I know myself, like, I get stuck. I'll do something for forever until, like, it hits me in the head. I'm like, oh, I'll try this thing now.
Well, and eventually your muscle will actually plateau. If all you did was just bicep curls on a barbell, eventually you're going to plateau. You want to. I call it faking out the muscle, right? So you want to do a different type of a workout for your bicep, your triceps, whatever muscle group you're targeting. You don't want to do the same exercise every time. So,
Yeah. Well, and just the fact that it's a mental game too,
right,
and it puts you in a different mental state. Because I know sometimes I'm like, oh man, I got to do this again. I'm like, oh no, I could just switch.
yeah, yep,
And then finally we have cardio, which, look, this is a totally different topic. So we're gonna kind of glaze over it a little bit. I think it's something that, you need to do your research on. You need to, test, not only for the physiological side, but just the component of how much of it do you want to integrate into your workout,
right,
because it is very time consuming. You have people on the treadmill for 20, 30, 40 minutes. Um, and then if you're on the elliptical, because you're not, well, I'd say most people are, it's a little easier movement. So you could be potentially on there longer.
yeah,
And there's a lot of information on there, out there now, a lot of studies based on, how much, how many carbs you're burning, and, how many calories you're burning, and is it good? Is it not good? So I'm going to stay away from just talking about cardio right now, as far as the technical side of it. But I would say, um, if you want to start, I would say, go 15, 20 minutes, depending on what your skill level is, depending on how much time you have, because there's this constant battle between, aerobic and anaerobic type of workout. And, I think people, they just get so accustomed to, well, I got to go on the treadmill because I got to burn calories and stuff. Well,
yeah, exactly.
moving weights is great for reducing fat.
Yep.
So keep that in mind too as you're going. So yeah, I would implement cardio, because it's good for your heart. And there are other great things about it, but again, that's something you got to work into. Walking is a great cardio movement. Cycling, and like I said, elliptical. So you don't have to get on a treadmill and, start sprinting, but it is good to at least do some walking, right?
Well, I think it's a great warm up too. I mean, that's what I use it for. I'll jump on a treadmill for 15 minutes at a brisk walk and just warm up, right? Get ready
It
to lift.
is.
I think it's a great way to get your muscles going. You know, I mean, we're not single plane, beings. We're multiplanar guys. I mean, we need to get all the muscles moving when we start to work out. We can't just focus on just biceps and triceps
Right.
and it's a full, like you said, it's a full body workout is what you need to be looking at. So I think cardio is a great way to warm up your entire body.
Yeah.
Honestly,
And like we said before too, it also puts you into that mental state,
of
right?
course. Yep.
I love doing that. And a lot of the treadmills today, they have like the scenery
Yeah.
where like the videos, like, you're walking in Paris or,
Yep.
you're hiking in the Andes or,
Peloton.
um,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. So it's definitely different nowadays where, it helps the time go a lot quicker. But to your point, it's great for warming up and getting not only your body, but your mental state and getting prepped for, the rest of your workout. Because, look, a lot of people are gonna begin their fitness journey because they have to, right? It's
Right.
probably well, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'd say there's probably a good percentage of people that are going into the gym because they have high cholesterol and their doctor's saying, hey, you got to exercise, you got to start doing some type of movement. So the mental state is probably going to be a lot different than someone who is, it's a routine for them. It's just their normal routine. They wake up, they drink their coffee, they go to the gym. It's gonna be a little harder for some other people that are doing it because their doctor told them to and they have to. So
Right.
having your mental state is, I think it's paramount because without your mental state, your body can't respond.
Yeah.
So basically that leads us into listening to your body. I don't have it on the slide, but I have it on my notes here, because that's really what it comes down to. Choosing exercises that feel comfortable,
Yep.
and you feel good with. And again, these exercises that you're going to do are going to be potentially dictated by your age and your injuries and things like that. So and don't be afraid to modify the exercises with proper supervision. And as simple as like you're doing a push-up. Well, if you're doing push-ups for 6 weeks straight and you don't feel like it's benefiting you in any way, well, do incline push-ups.
Right.
Just change it, that slight difference, which I think changes everything.
Yep. No, it truly does. And even vice versa, right? If you're somebody who goes into the gym and you can't do a push up, well, modify it, right? Start on your knees
Right.
and work your way up to doing the full push up. I mean,
Right.
yeah.
I think those machines, those what they call those, chin up assisted machines, when you put your knees on the
Oh, those are great.
platform, right?
Yeah.
I think those are
Yep.
the best things
Yep.
because it gives you the opportunity to, because who goes in the gym and starts trying to do a pull up? The first one they do, they can't do, and then immediately they just give up. It's like this is terrible. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But machines like that, I think, are a credit to gyms. I think that's it's beneficial for everyone to be able to have that ability to do that full movement. Um, and it just gives you more confidence for the next time. And soon enough, 12 weeks go by and you're actually doing one rep by yourself,
Yep.
without the assistance.
Even dips. I've always had a hard time doing dips, right? They even had the assisted dip machine too. And that
Yep.
thing's great. I love it. Absolutely love it.
I love dips. It's funny. I've been doing dips forever, and I just think they're, so important because you're working so many muscles. But I heard someone say, I forget where it was. Maybe it was on YouTube or something. I heard someone say that dips are the squat for your upper body.
I would
Which
agree.
which I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So ever since I heard that now in the past month or so, whenever it was, I've been really focusing on them, and I don't leave the gym until I do my
dips.
dips.
Well, and you can modify the dip too to where not only you're working your triceps, but you're also working your chest as well. So just depending on how you do the dip. So as
Yeah,
well.
it's a slight angle change.
It is.
And it's one of those exercises that you can feel right away. So I think if you're doing it for your shoulders or you're doing it for your chest or you're doing it for tries, you'll automatically feel which muscle you're working
Oh yeah, yeah, you do.
the most, right? So speaking of sets and reps, if you want to go to the next slide, there you go. So to break it down, real simple, sets and reps refer to how many times you perform an exercise, which is the rep, and how many rounds of those reps you do, which is the complete set.
Right.
So this is a touchy subject because I think it's so generalized where, do 2 or 3 sets and 6 to 8 reps, and, everyone gets told that in the beginning.
Right. Right.
So I think it's a good foundation for people to start out. Aim for 2 to 3 sets,
Yep.
8 to 12 reps for most of the exercises. So do with caution. Obviously, if you're injured in a certain area, you can only do 2 sets. Do 2 sets. A lot of this stuff is milestone based. Personally. So you just want to think like, if I go in and I don't have a lot of time, do 2 sets.
Right.
You know, and reps again. It's something you're going to have to know your body and just accumulate over time the reps and see how far you can go. I
Yeah.
think for the most part, people there's a lot of research out there. A lot of trainers try to push people to go to that final rep of where
The
you're
failure.
struggling on that last rep. Right? You're a trainer. What do you do? Do you push people?
I don't know.
No.
I know people that do that. They push to failure. I know that.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't.
So yeah, I would say I maybe do it half the time. I'm not looking to put on a ton of muscle.
It depends what your goal is, right? It depends what your overall goal is.
Yeah, exactly. So rep range is generally effective for building muscle endurance and some strength. So the good thing about that is, you could do 8 reps and for one set, and then you can do 20 reps on the next set if you want.
Yep.
Switching the weight around, you could add weight, take away weight. So those are all things that you'll eventually come to know be just like second nature to you.
Drop sets.
Yeah, drop sets and compound sets and super sets and all these things that sound really confusing, but at the end of the day, after a couple months in the gym, you'll be doing these things like you've been doing them forever. And then focusing on the control movement is super important, right? Don't rush your reps. Of course, if you've got like 20 minutes and you got to do, you're gonna accelerate your sets. But I would say, for the most part, if you have the time and you're trying to stay focused, control movements are the most effective. And the mirrors are there for a reason. It's not to take selfies, although today when you walk in the gym, you wouldn't know that.
I know, right?
But use the mirrors because they are effective. Not only do you see, over time, you see your gains, but you're also, observing your muscle movement, how that movement has changed from your first or second week now to your 12th or your 14th week. Understanding that is super important. So use the mirrors, even take weights, even dumbbells, and there's no mirror there, go into the mirror so you can watch yourself. There's plenty of really good animated apps where you could see these movements in action real time on your app. And there's nothing better than be able to, check that out on your app. And you don't even have to do it at the gym. You could actually do it when you're home at night and, screen cap these videos. And then when you get to the gym, you could just watch them as you go, But I think they're super important to be able to, get the most of the muscle gain that you're looking for.
Yep. Well, you talked earlier about getting the most, you know, out of the muscle right during the workout, and there's a lot of studies, and Rob talked about this before that,
Mhm.
you know, eccentric is just as important as concentric, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's become a big topic lately.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, everybody is a little different as far as like what they want to get out of a rep.
Mhm.
But if you just think of it that way, as, you know, you're pushing and you're pulling, and it's all going to have an effect, whether, you know, the exercise is for chest or not. You have to focus on the whole movement, which I think is key. If you're
Yeah.
breathing correctly and focusing on the that movement is key.
You know how many people don't breathe when they work out? It blows my mind. I
Yeah.
watch it all the time. It's like, how do you not breathe?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, when you hold your breath, it's kind of like, you know, I guess a lot of people think like, you know, you got more strength because, you know, you're straining um, and then, you know, people, sometimes I see people breathe and they're breathing out of sequence,
Yeah, yeah,
right? They're exhaling at the wrong time. And that will definitely, well, I mean, ask singers, you know, how they hit these notes and belt out those tunes. It comes from your diaphragm, you
diaphragm.
know?
Yeah.
So if you're not, you know, you could hit a high note or you could hit a big note. I don't sing, so I don't know what the term. You sing, Keith. So
A high, yeah, high pitch, but it's gonna be you're not gonna be able to sustain it, right? If you're
right,
not.
right, exactly. That actually that's a better word.
Yeah,
Sustain it, sustainability. So being able to do these movements to what you were talking about earlier about, you know, doing these slow movements, where, you know, you're pushing, but as you're retracting, you know, you're also working a muscle and you're breathing through it.
right, right.
So again, I'm going to say this like a bunch of times throughout the show is like listen to your body, because it's so key that all of these components, when you're in the gym or you're, you know, working out, you're going to learn from all these things. You're going to learn from your sets, your reps, and when to increase or decrease, you know, for injury's sake and things like that.
Yep.
Um, so then we'll go over to execution, which you were talking about earlier, Keith, is prioritize form over weight.
100%.
So correct
100%.
technique over heavy weight with poor form obviously is superior.
Yep.
And
Yeah, because
watch yourself.
once you're injured, then you're not working out for a while. You know, so
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But I mean, ultimately, it, you know, it's, you could do more. You'll eventually be able to do more. It's just a waiting game. You know, it's just being
right.
patient and feeling it out. But I've seen it so many times. You know, people like 3 months later, like, oh my god, I got so strong. Like, no, you know, you did get strong, but you can control the weight, and your body is used to that movement. Watch yourself. So we talked about this a few minutes ago. Utilizing the mirrors, to monitor your form, which is key.
Yeah, yeah.
Recording yourself.
I love. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, recording yourself is great, but here's my piece of advice: just don't be that guy. Don't be that guy, you know, where you're setting up the tripod and, you know, because I think there's a big component to all of this, uh, as far as like gym intimidation goes and being in the gym is like, you know, there's also something called gym etiquette, right?
Right.
So we want to make sure we're, you know, not hogging machines, and we're, and this is good information for new people too, because I see a ton of people like on the leg extension machine, just sitting there on their phone,
Texting.
texting or whatever they're doing,
Yeah.
and they don't move. And it's like 10, 15 minutes go by. And I just like, you know, you don't want to be rude, but so that's another thing. If you're new in the gym and, you know, you want to occupy yourself and entertain yourself while you're working out, which is great, you know, as long as you're working out, that's the main thing. Just have a little courtesy, a little gym etiquette, which goes a long way for people.
Right.
You know, you're doing your set. If you're, you know, if you're taking like 30-second interview or rests in between your set, then yeah, fine, sit there and, look at your phone for 20 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're going to sit there for 5 minutes in between each set, there's other people that want to get on the machine and work out. And there's a lot of people who don't say anything or don't want to, be that other guy. But at the end of the day, want to keep that type of mentality, because that's going to keep, number one, it's going to keep your mental, your frame of mind in a good spot. And number two, it's gonna keep you motivated to get to that next set, right?
Yeah. Well, the reason I like the recording aspect, and I know what you're saying because I've seen it 100 times too. But my point is, when you use the mirrors, let's say you're doing a bicep curl, right?
Yeah.
You don't see what you see in the mirror, right? You don't know if you're arching your back. You don't know if your shoulders are rolling forward. So
Right.
a lot of times you get that other vantage point from the camera view, which is great. You go back and review your form. You can say, okay, well, I noticed when I, when I, raise the barbell that I'm arching my back or my shoulders are going forward, whatever the case may be. You can be more critical of your form, I think, if you record it versus just looking in a mirror, because there's parts that you can't see as you're working out. So that's why it's a great idea to do that.
Oh, I do it, by the way, Keith. Don't miss what I'm saying. I do it. I've done it.
Yeah.
The issue is, don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. Exactly.
That's walking around with like the high 8 camera and, blocking all the machines, got the tripod up and, is on the squat rack for, 30 minutes. And so recording himself, and sending stories to Instagram and things like that.
Well, the problem is, if you're in a big gym, like taking LA Fitness, like here we have EOS Fitness, which is a great gym, but when it first opened, it was packed.
Yeah.
And try to get a bench, right, to do any type of workout. It was literally what you said. There'd be 5 people just texting on their phones for 10 minutes. And it's like, you don't want to be rude, but you want to go up and say, other people want to work out too,
Yeah.
If you're done, step off the bench, go make your phone call and come back, whatever it is. Yeah. I get that.
And a lot of people too, I've noticed, because I've had to ask people, especially when the gym's busy and like, I go early in the morning and I have a schedule I need to keep. So, I got to get my workout done. I got to get to the office. So at the end of the day, I mean, I've gone up to people and say, excuse me, are you using the machine, or can I jump in there? And a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. So I think it's just self-awareness. This is what part of the show is about, is to just get everyone informed on, what it's like to be in a gym, because it really is its own world in itself. It's, it's a culture, and you don't have to be part of it. It's just that, when you enter that gym, a lot of gyms, you're entering, a culture, and you're entering, some type of, place where, I guess there's unspoken kind of rules in a sense.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. So again, there's a ton of online resources you can you can use for any of the stuff we're talking about. But even if you Google gym etiquette, you'll find stuff on how to go about that.
Right.
There's great websites like bodybuilding.com, NSCA, which is National Strength and Conditioning Association. And they offer, a lot of them have like, well, I know bodybuilding.com has a really good forum, and you can find this stuff on Reddit too. Like if you go into
there's a ton of them. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Yep.
And look, you're gonna meet a lot of people who are intimidating and who don't put up with certain things. But at the end of the day, I think once you kind of weed through the information, you'll get some good information from people, because there's a lot of people that want to help, and that's the main thing.
Yeah.
And then I don't think I have. So the next, how much is too much? But I wanted to focus more on, just reiterate the whole mental side of this, is being present, right? Because when you're in the gym, when you do have like a handheld device or something, you're kind of like either distracted or not in the moment.
Yeah.
But I would say it's really important to be present in that moment and kind of focus on your muscles, focus on what you're there for. Get that, or like we say, establish that mind muscle connection. Because I think if you do that and you focus on targeting the muscles and getting your reps and sets organized, I think it improves muscle activation and effectiveness. What do you think, Keith?
I agree. I mean, honestly, when I walk in the gym, my phone goes in the locker, and I don't touch it again until I
Well,
leave.
I don't go that far, Keith. Come on.
Oh, I mean, I don't, because I want to.
Yeah.
I'm there to work out. I'm there to focus, and I
Yeah.
agree. You have to be focused on what you're doing, and any distractions, I think, take away from what you're trying to achieve. I really do.
Yeah, it's true. And to be honest, if I didn't have like, emails coming from New York or in Europe, clients and things like that, because that's a lot earlier. If
Yeah,
I'm in the gym at 6 a.m., I still have people, it's, 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. for them. So, or even later. So that's really why I have my phone
yeah.
and to listen to my podcast.
But you talk about the mental aspect of the gym, and I want to bring up something else too. So a lot of people go, "Well, I could just work out from home. I could just build a home gym and do it, do
Right.
all that stuff," which is fine, because. But what I notice is that you've made the commitment to drive to the gym or to walk to the gym, whatever it is. You're there. You're there to focus, to work out. When you're at home, people tend to come up with a lot of excuses. Well, I'll get to it later. I'm busy right now. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I think when you physically go to a gym, mentally you're committed. You're there. You're ready to do the job. And I think that's an important thing for people to understand. I mean, it's great to work out at home. It's convenient, but there's a lot of things that'll get in the way. I think, of working out. That's just my
Yeah.
experience. So
No, for me, I'm the same way. I mean, I've had, in my house, I've had, squat rack, I've had bench, I've had everything I need to do a complete workout. But I just, at some point, it just gets to the point where I don't feel like I'm pushing myself or I'm in that mental state I need to be in. So for me personally, I need to go to the gym. It's the biggest thing that motivates me, gets me out of bed. It gets me, super hyper focused for the day and what I have to achieve and things I have to do, because throughout my whole workout, I'm
yeah,
constantly thinking about like, okay, I got to do this, I got to write this, I got to call this person and do that. So for me, it's such a cathartic event, I would say, every day to get started. And there are times where I'm like, I can't go to the gym or I'm injured or I just, sick or whatever. And the rest of the day, I just feel like
drives
trash,
you crazy. Yeah, yep, yep. I know those feelings.
And I would say,
Hmm.
set some goals for yourself, for the day is, I think would be helpful, too, is like, okay, if you're thinking about, all right, well, I did 2 sets of this exercise last time. I'm going to try to hit that third set. And even if you're doing like 2 or 3 reps in that third set, at least you hit a goal.
You're progressing. Yeah,
Yeah. Some people are good at documenting, and keeping journals. I'm not. But if you are that type of person and you could focus on, keeping a journal, it's a great thing. I don't see a lot of people in the gym with journals. Maybe they're doing it on their phone. I don't know.
yeah.
But I
They have
used
to
to,
track what you're doing too now. So
yeah, I used to see people, with these little books and they're
yep,
writing their sets, and it was great.
yep.
We should bring that back.
I think we should. I think we
You
should
should
too.
be at the door of every gym collecting everyone's phone.
Your phone.
Like, like you're walking into Area 51 or something. It's like, give me your phone.
Yeah, for me, I lose focus, right? I'm the
Yeah.
same way. If I get a text message, I get an email, a phone call, it takes me away from what I'm doing. And,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I want to be focused when I work out.
Yeah. It's true. I feel the same. But like I said, I got a podcast that I've been listening to. It's not the Ycast, by the way.
No,
No.
listen, you're on.
No, I'm tired of hearing your voice.
I don't talk.
This is the most you've talked.
Yeah, exactly. It's most I've talked this whole time.
Speaking of talk, positive self-talk is also something that you work on.
Yep.
Just encourage yourself in the morning. Get up. I'm going to do this. I know it sounds silly, but to a lot of people, to a lot of people, it works.
Yeah.
So you don't know if you're that person unless you start doing it. If you start talking to yourself and encouraging yourself and hyping yourself up, and 2 minutes later you're like, "What the heck am I doing?" Then maybe you're not that person.
Yeah.
But if if it motivates you and helps, then continue to do that, because we all need it. No one, well, I won't say no one likes getting out of bed and going to the gym, but it definitely, I would say most people are like, oh man, do you have your hardcore people that are in the gym and it's their life? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that's, standard.
It's not everybody. No.
So let's go to how much is too much. I think you have that slide up already.
Yeah. And so address Christine's question real quick. So is there a right
Oh.
time or wrong time to work out? Because our youngest son used to go to the gym around 1 to 3 a.m. My oldest would go around 10 a.m. Yeah. I don't believe there's a right or wrong time to work out, honestly. I mean, your lifestyle is going to dictate when you work out, right? I mean, I know people who work overnight shifts that have to work early. I know people that work during the day and can only work out at night. I mean, I think it's really based on individual.
Yeah, it's I would say number one, if I were to guess, it's a scheduling thing, right? For most people.
Yeah.
Number two, it's when does your body function the best?
Exactly.
Because not everyone, but a lot of people I talk to when we start talking about working out and fitness, and they're like, when do you go to the gym? And I'm like, 5:36, 6:30, whenever in that time. What? Yeah. I mean, that's when I function. That's my coffee in the morning. I don't drink coffee. I go to the gym, and number one, I like working out in an environment where there's not a lot of people.
Yeah.
So my experience has been, I've been in gyms all across America that the earlier you go, the less people you have to interact with.
Yep.
So that's a benefit for me. And I feel it works best with my body. And maybe that's something that's happened over time where I've gotten used to it. But I would say for me, I don't eat breakfast. I'll eat breakfast like on the weekends, or a holiday, whatever. But I don't eat breakfast in the morning. I like getting to the gym, doing my workout, getting the work, and then kind of getting ready for the day in a sense, So I would say no, it's just like listen to your body and
right.
Follow the schedule you have to. If work is dictating it, then go early or go after work. But I don't think there's any physiological reason better than another to go at a certain time.
Yeah, I think it depends on the individual. It really does. And one thing I notice, I don't know if you notice this too, Tony, but a lot of times I'll try to work out. I typically fit in around my lunchtime, right? Because that's the easiest time of day for me to do it. But
yeah,
I noticed that when I was doing it early in the morning, like if I would get up at 5, work out, I wouldn't crash in the afternoon, right?
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I know a lot of times if I work out around noon or so, by 3 o'clock, some days I just crash. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I know I have a pretty stressful job, so I don't know if it's that, but I did notice when I was consistently doing it at 5 a.m., I wouldn't crash in the afternoon. I was good to go the whole day. So,
yeah, I think it, I think it takes a poke at your metabolism and, changes the dynamic. And then, you have to concern yourself with, what you have in your stomach, like what nutrients does your body have to work with
right.
when you're switching things up like that. Because you're using energy and burning fuel in the morning. How does that affect you the rest of the day?
Right.
So you don't know where your sugar levels are, and everybody's different. So I think finding those things out, and that's perfect. I mean, what you said, Keith, is kind of perfect. It's like, when I was doing this, I learned this, and then that's what people need to do, is just kind of listen to their body.
Right.
Because I know we haven't said that on the show at all.
It's a resounding theme.
Right. So I would say, speaking of themes for this, how much is too much? I would say the theme would be start slow and steady, right? Aim for 2 to 3 structured gym sessions per week if you can. I would say if you're doing cardio, maybe you're doing that 45 minutes. If you're not doing cardio, maybe limit it to 30 minutes. It keeps you, especially if you're a beginner and you're struggling with the idea of staying in the gym for 30 minutes. It keeps it quick.
Yep.
And it allows your body to adapt to the new demands, and minimizes a risk of overtraining, and just putting that burden on yourself mentally where, I got to go back the next day. It keeps it fresh.
Burnout.
Yeah. So listen to your body.
That's a new concept.
It's a new concept. There's a lot of research behind that. Rob's probably rolling in his grave right now. He's
It's
like,
so
yeah,
true, though. It's so
right,
true.
yeah. Um, and then as you said, quality over quantity.
Mm.
We said that earlier. Good form is paramount. Gradual progression. As your body adapts and acclimates to the different movements, this happens fairly quickly within a couple to a few weeks.
Yeah.
Um, you increase your frequency, duration, intensity of your workouts, and you don't have to like stress out about it. It'll just come naturally.
Yep.
Um, and that's the thing too. You don't want to go from like 2-3 days to all of a sudden, oh my god, this is the best thing ever, and then you're 7 days a week. Well, you can. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it, but
Yeah.
if you're, I would say the caveat to that would be don't do it because other people are telling you to do it or
Right.
pressuring you. You feel like you have to do it because you're feeling like you want to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
And then again, tracking, a lot of people are tracking their macros, tracking their heart rates. So understanding what your body's doing at that time, I would say this is another key component to, how much is too much, because once you compile all those numbers and all that data, you can then, do a little research and kind of compare it to, your resting heart rate, your sleep quality, which is key. We'll probably get into that in a little bit. But all these things, all this information, which we have at our fingertips now that we didn't have, even like, well, we had it, but like 15, 20 years ago, no one was using this stuff.
No. No. No.
Let's see here. What's our next slide? On and off days. So
Recovery is important.
yeah, I mean, I would say recovery is such a, just an underestimated component of all this. Um, Obviously, when you're working out, you're tearing muscle,
Yep.
and that's what contributes to building the muscle. But the recovery and the sleep aspect, it builds back bigger and stronger. So that's the whole point: tear down to build back up. So on your off days, those are active recovery days, and those are super important to your workout. So don't think like, if you're taking a day off, like, oh, don't get stressed out about it because you're not doing anything. What I would say is, if you have a day off, let's say you have a day off from work, maybe not just sit on the couch. And I'm being a hypocrite right now, but did I just say that?
No. We'll bleep that out.
Is this mic on? So, engage in some light activities, walking, stretching, yoga, cycling, whatever feels right. But I would say being active is also key, because it obviously can help your blood flow. It's going to, reduce muscle soreness that comes up from a prior workout from the day before, or if you're just getting back from after a holiday. And it promotes recovery too. So, all those things come to play. Prioritizing sleep. We've talked about this multiple times. Look, just try to get as much sleep as you can.
Yeah.
This irritates me more than I could tell you. I'm up constantly. I've done so many different things. I would love to get 8 hours of sleep, right? Sometimes I can, but at the end of the day, the older you get, I think the more active you are at night, for other reasons. But get as much sleep as you can,
Right.
and I'll leave it at that, unless you have anything else you want to add about sleep.
No, I'm in the same boat you are, man.
Yeah,
Just would be a dream.
right. Hydration is super important. Drink plenty of water. Again, I'm, being a hypocrite here. I don't drink as much water as I need to. Even on your days off, which is key. It's not just about working out; it's about staying hydrated. Hydration plays a crucial role. for muscle function, and your overall health, which I think, I would say most people are pretty educated on that now. Hydration is probably one of the biggest, um, things as far as like health and wellness goes.
Well, the other thing too is if you live in the desert states like we do, right? I mean, you're when you wake
Yep.
up in the morning, you're already in the negative, right? You're already behind the eight ball.
Yep.
So it's really important for people like us, when you live in California, Arizona, Nevada, you tend to have to drink a little bit more to stay hydrated than you would if you live back east.
Yeah. And then you have, the other side of it too is if you have, some illnesses and things you're dealing with that, lead to dehydration and kidney issues. And, I've got kidney stones. So I know like I got to stay hydrated
It's crucial for you. Yeah.
because if I don't, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, I mean, I think, we're all pretty astute now in these times that hydration is key. So the next slide, if you will.
Just kind of glossed over that. That was good. That was awesome.
Yeah. Not even saying it.
Oh, that was good.
Integrating work schedules. So I put this in here because I think this is important because most people are dealing with this. Got people like me, I've got it figured out. I do it in the morning, whatever. But you were saying earlier, like, you were playing around with different times and this works for you at lunch and the morning you tried. But I would say overall, regardless of what you do, you should treat your gym session like it's an important appointment. Like you're going for a job interview. Like it's something you got to do. It's on your calendar. Block out that time and day and stick to it as much as possible, because I think there's an for me there's an overall theme with tonight's topic, and that's going to be consistency, right? Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yep.
Because even if you're not doing everything correctly, right, you're still being consistent, you're still in the gym, you're still trying to raise the bar of your health and wellness. So consistency, I would say, is probably one of the most important things.
Well, I think we've also said in the past that health and wellness, it's a lifestyle, right? I mean, that comes with consistency. And I'm laughing because my wife, I know right now, is shaking her head and laughing because she has told me multiple times, put your workout on your calendar. And I don't,
Yeah.
because I have meetings that come up during the time I'm going to work out, and I jump on the meeting instead of working out. So I had to laugh that you put that in there.
Yeah. Lindsay, get him.
It's true. You have to. It's a great point.
Don't let him skip workouts. And then wait a second, I lost my thing here. Okay. So be flexible too, and don't be too hard on yourself. Life happens. If you miss a workout, reschedule. Don't throw in the towel. Do a shorter session if you can, but life isn't over. You have the next day, you have the night, whenever you can fit it in.
Right.
Again, back to, your time frame in the gym, you can condense these workouts with some programs they have there, like HIIT. It's a high intensity interval training, what the acronym is. So all those things can work into your routine if you're looking to, condense your workout. I definitely suggest checking out, the classes and seeing what works for you.
Yeah.
And then, finding movement opportunities throughout the day. This is something like, your mom or dad would tell you, like, take the stairs, instead of the elevator, go for a walk or bike to work if you live in Manhattan, I guess. But get out and do something. I think we've said that. Oh, it doesn't say listen to your body on this one.
But even just as simple as, I know a lot of times I'll have meetings and I'll do a meeting on the phone and I'll walk around my backyard, right? I won't stay just sitting behind the desk all day long. I can't do it.
Yeah.
That's it's a good opportunity where we all had meetings, but do it on your phone and walk around.
Yeah. I think, again, I think all of this comes down to like forming habits.
Right.
And I think, we talked about supplements and we talked about, what those habits look like. And one of the, I would say the toughest things for humans to do is like change habits and focus on new habits.
Agree with
And I
you.
think if you, we use that term like break the ceiling. I think if you, do it, struggle for those 2 or 3 or 4 days or the week or whatever it takes to just get through that period and break that ceiling, then it starts to become a habit and
Right.
you start embracing it. So I think that whether it's you're working out from home or you're changing up your workout routine to fit your mental state or just your work, integrating your work into the time frame. It's all about just like just doing something and getting to that point of where it becomes a necessity for your body and your
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. I agree with that.
We're going to jump into nutrition, basic nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist. You don't need to become a nutritionist overnight, but establishing some healthy eating habits, is beneficial and will significantly complement your training, obviously.
Yes.
So focus on whole foods, prioritize fruits, veggies, lean proteins, and whole grains.
Yeah.
This is accessible information, guys. You can. I'm going to post this PDF link on the bottom of the video, so you guys can download this if you want. Prioritize protein. There's this big shift, I would say, over the past like 15 years with Atkins and everything of protein intake. So there's a lot of studies, and protein's a valuable resource for muscle growth,
Yep.
repair. So at some point, whether you're doing powders or you're eating you're consuming your protein with meats and things like that, I would say just try to integrate it into one of your meals at least during the day
Yeah.
if you're one of those people that are on the fly and you don't have time to eat. Stay hydrated. Obviously we talked about that. Uh, be mindful of processed foods and stuff that are really destroying the population.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a ton of research now on the gut and how that really facilitates just getting the most out of your body and what you're putting into your stomach really translate as to how you look and feel. So I
You are
think that's what you
right.
say.
I love that statement. You are what you eat.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
100% true.
And that's been around forever.
Yeah. Yep.
We get caught up in the Red Bulls and a lot of empty calories that hinder your progress. So Red Bulls, I drink Red Bulls, so I'm not saying don't drink Red Bull. And, it's all in moderation, I guess. And with that said, I've been in this a place too where you drastically cut calories.
Yeah.
So as a beginner, you want to focus on making healthier choices, rather than like just this drastic, severe calorie restriction, because it's gonna it's gonna put you in a fatigue state. You're gonna have nutrient deficiencies. So I would say overall, it's all moderation, and there's plenty of resources and apps to help you get through that. And
Yeah.
again, you guys can email us, ask us any follow up questions regarding this stuff. So the journey takes time, and it's crucial to practice accepting yourself and being patient with results. Everybody will progress at their own pace. I would also reiterate, like, don't look at your neighbor and see what their progress is, or someone, your workout partner. Everyone's going to have their different journey. That's why it's called fitness journey.
Of course.
So own it, embrace it, and just come out on the other side a better better physical state, better mental state, because it's proven, it's you can't deny the benefits of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether you're hiking, whether you're climbing mountains or you're surfing. My partner in our business, he surfs and he's in good shape, and it's something, he's not a big gym guy anymore. So for the past, 15 years, he's a pretty avid surfer, and he stays in shape like that. So I
Yeah.
think this is about the gym tonight, but overall you can implement a lot of what we're saying into, some of the other routines that you're taking on and you're focusing. Um, Being realistic is key, understanding, just being consistent and being realistic about, what your body's going through, and, kind of, I would say, pre-plan as much as you can. So you're not waking up one day and you don't know where to go with your workouts or
Right.
your nutrition. I think it's important to, just kind of have a pre-planning session, whether you do it for the week or it's just something you do for the next day. I think that's key.
And set realistic goals too, right? Because that could be detrimental to your mental state when it comes to working out. If you're setting too high of goals right off the bat and you don't achieve those goals, that could be very disheartening for people too. So set realistic goals.
Yeah, and the physical part of it is going to happen. Like, you're going to feel yourself getting stronger. You're going to feel yourself having more energy. You're going to have less of those times of the day where you're crashing. You're making healthier choices with food, so your insulin levels will be in check.
Yeah.
You're taking from our supplement show now. You know what supplements to take. So all these things coming together, you can't deny that the physical results that will happen. Tracking your progress is key. I would say don't obsess about it, but like I said, you're either one of those people who kind of writes everything down and or one who doesn't. But if you're somewhere in the middle there, it's maybe something you should do just to see. And you do it for the first 6 months or first year just to see
Right.
your progress, and then
Right.
maybe you just don't do it anymore because you're already acclimated to the gym, and it's a habit now, and you could um you could segue. You could take the things you're doing at the gym, and then, I'm going to go hiking the next day if it's something physical you like to do, and you get a good workout from it, but you can't do it every day of the week. Maybe it's like one day a week. So you can split these activities up and do things, activities that you enjoy, and still be in the same mindset, still take what you've learned from the gym, and bring it into these other activities, which I think
Right.
is great.
Yeah.
Um, Having an accountability partner, which I think is a cool term, whether it's a gym person that you work out with, whether it's a significant other, whether it's a family member, someone that kind of makes that comment like, "Hey, did you go to the gym today?" Because as innocuous as it is as a comment, it resonates with you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh man, they noticed that.
I didn't go. Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, be kind to yourself, and just stay focused on, like you said, achieving that next goal, and hitting those milestones. I think is the
That's,
key.
yeah. Absolutely.
So, well, look, Keith, we covered a lot tonight.
Really did.
We went really long, but that's good. I think we put a lot of information out there. So to recap a couple key points, I would say, start slow, focus on, your technique, be present mentally is key.
Yeah.
Um, and then overall consistency, I would say, again, is probably the overarching theme of everything. And then, you know, cardio, nutrition, those things are integrated, and they're a very important component of your fitness journey. But I would say, those are different shows
Yeah.
that we'll talk about. Do some more research on those components of your fitness journey. But But I would say for taking your first step in the gym, taking your first step on which exercises to do and how many sets and, gym etiquette and all those things we talked about tonight, I think you have a good head start to get in. And it's just like, just do it, man. I think that's the best thing to say is get up, go, acclimate yourself to the people, the environment. And I think anybody can do it.
And I think to your point, Tony, if any of the listeners out there have questions, by all means, send an email, ask your question, because between all of us, we can definitely get you the answers and get you the help. So I would definitely recommend, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, because I think support is a big thing. Having someone that's kind of helping you through it, even if it's just an email here and there, like, hey, I did this, I hit this plateau, and I don't feel like I'm getting this, and we've all been through it. I don't think there's much you can throw at myself, you, or even Rob that we haven't been through.
Right.
So there's plenty of experience. Well, Keith, appreciate you being my partner tonight.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was good topic. I think it's something everybody needs to hear. And if you have some experience, it's always good to kind of rehash these things and just see where your own fitness level is at.
Oh yeah.
But good stuff, man. Before we go, I want to definitely thank RCJ Productions, Keith and Lindsay. Check these guys out. If anyone's out there looking to start their own podcast or just have some audio video engineering questions or projects, or even need some consulting, these guys are great. You obviously hear Keith on the podcast with us every other Wednesday. So don't be afraid, give them a call and they can help you through. They put a really nice studio together for us that we're growing out of really quickly. So
that's going to happen. It does happen.
Better get your butts back out here.
Question.
Thank you, Keith and Lindsay.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and then if you have any questions too for these guys, you could always send it to Project Y. Our emails are open. We'll send it over to Keith, but you can reach those guys. How can they reach you, Keith?
They can go to our website at rcjproduction.com, and there's a contact page on there. They can reach out to us.
Cool. Well, speaking of contact, obviously our YouTube channel is at the Ycast, Facebook, Project Y, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok, Project Y Now. Again, guys, leave your comments and questions. If you like tonight's episode, please subscribe and throw a like our way. It really goes a long way, and it's going to help a lot of men. Our goal here at Project Y is to help men facilitate their own health and wellness needs and break down some of these stigmas. So we're going to continue down that path. Check out the products on the website. And if you're interested, just email us. We're giving away free samples. The only thing you have to do is you have to go to YouTube. You have to subscribe, take a screenshot, email it to us, and you will get a free cream or a free serum. And this stuff works, guys. So I want you to definitely try it. So hit us up tomorrow. Our emails, tonyprojectYnow.com, through the website, through our socials. And our next show is May 7th. And I think we're going to be talking about, we're going to dive into a little nutrition on that show, but we'll keep you guys posted and we'll start promoting. And you also have our app you can download. But thanks again, guys, tonight. Really enjoyed the company. Thanks, Keith.
No problem.
I'll see you on May 7th.
See you guys.
Yeah.